Hello everyone, and welcome to our last part of our Way of Faith series, where we're trying to figure out what faith is, how we can use this in our daily life. And we were looking on Abraham as our example, and I'm just going to recap a little for those of you who just joined directly into this video. So the first lesson we saw that the first components of faith is desire. We have to want something. And the second part of faith is visualization. That means it's not just enough just wanting anything, but we really want to visualize the thing that we want. We want to try to see it in our mind, how it will look like if it's there, if we had it. So that's the visualization part. And the third is the confession part. That is, we speak out, we confirm the thing that we are seeing. That it will happen, I'm going to get it, God is with me. And so we confess accordingly to what we see in our mind. And the fourth was prayer, that we pray what we have confessed. We pray for the thing that we want, and we bring it before God in prayer and say, God, you are able to make it happen. And we keep praying and thanking God at the same time. And then God will do work in his time. But before that, there's usually another part also, and that is the action part. And this is what we're going to talk about today. The last part is the action part. And we looked on Abraham as an example. Abraham, he wanted children. That was the desire. And then God took him outside and told him to visualize and to count the stars. And as many as the stars are, so many will his descendants be. So he had a desire. God told him to visualize it. And then third, God came again, visited Abraham, and gave him the new name Abraham, meaning the father of many nations. Before his name was Abram, exalted father. Then God gave him a new name, meaning father of many nations, Abraham. So God told him to confess, to say out that he is a father of many nations before he had the first son. And then Abraham, he kept praying and thanking God, not looking on his own body, and Sarah, which he was like 100 years old and Sarah was like 90, and so they were not able naturally to have children. But then the fifth part now is that action. Actually, they tried to have a child. And then it says here in verse Genesis chapter 21:1, and the Lord visited Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah as he had spoken. For Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age, at the set time which God had spoken to him. And Abraham called the name of his son who was born to him, whom Sarah bore to him, Isaac. So God did the miracle. They tried to conceive, but it was actually God who made it possible. And this principle of action, the last part of faith, is extremely important. And many times we don't see that. It's not enough just to visualize and to confess and pray also. We also have to take our part. We have to do something. And there's many examples of that in the Bible, that it's when people did what was in their might to do. That is when God's grace, God's miracle was released. And one of the easiest example is the 5 loaves and 2 fish. Then Jesus blessed the bread in prayer. But it was only when they actually started to give out the 5 loaves and 2 fish that God did a miracle. So that new bread, new fish just came out of nowhere. And so it was only when they actually did what was in their hand to do that God did the miracle. And so James also said, without works, faith is dead. And there's many other examples I could take also from the Old Testament. For example, with Moses, they had just gone out of Egypt, and now Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, was again trying to attack them. And so the Pharaoh came on one side, and then they had like the Red Sea on the other side, so they were kind of squeezed in the middle. And then they freaked out, obviously, but Moses said, stand still, God is going to save you, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. But then God says in the next word, Why do you cry unto me? Tell the Israelites to go forward. So God, he told them, no, it's not just enough to pray and confess. You had to actually take action also. And so, so Moses, he was told to go towards the Red Sea, and then God told him to put out the rod on the sea. But the miracle splitting the sea, that was God who did that. But when did he do the miracle? When the Israelite actually walked, and when Moses actually put the rod to the sea. So we see here the fifth part of faith, the fifth component is take action, meaning do what is in your hand to do. God is not telling you to do something you can't do. You just give what is in your hand. You just take your steps, do what you're able to do. So always ask yourself, okay, I'm prayed for these things. Now what can I do? Who can I ask? What can I do? What kind of steps can I take? And it's only then that grace is released. And that's the whole point with faith, is to see God respond to our faith. And to see, when we see in the gospel many times it says, when Jesus saw their faith, then he started to heal, then he started to do the miracle. But first he had to see their faith. And so that when we practice these 5 things, when we desire something, we visualize it, we confess it, and we pray for it, and we take our actions. We do what is in our hand to do. Then grace, God's miracle, can step in. But that's not in our hand. When God answers it, how God does it, that is the miracle. That's the mystery. Mystery is not how to practice faith. Those 5 things we can understand, we can practice, we can do those things. But the response of God, when it comes, how it comes, that is up to him. It's a miracle. Just like the sower, he can learn how to sow the seed and water it and prune it and harvest. Today I was harvesting plums from my mother's garden. So those things is not a mystery. We can learn how to do these things, but how the tree grows, how those fruit forms, I have no idea. That's a mystery. How all this growth happens. It's God who has done these things in the nature that makes things grow and multiply, and it's just amazing. But I don't really need to know how it grows. I just need to know how to sow, how to harvest. And the same thing is, we just need to know how to practice faith. And then the miracle, how God provides, how he heals, how he connects things, that is up to God. Okay, hope you got something out of this, and God bless you all.